So now let's talk about the first of the psychological trait theories, psychodynamic theories. So psychodynamic theory centers on the personality model put forth by Sigmund Freud. Remember the id, the ego, the superego. Where the id is that unconscious part of our personalities that really drives that selfish part of us. It's impulsive, it's selfish, and it demands instant gratification. Now, if the id is very pronounced in an individual, then it makes them more likely to be impulsive and thus criminal. They don't have very good impulse control, so they might act out in deviant ways. So, this is what this theory is looking at. So, the unconscious part of our personality develops early in life. We're born with our id, and throughout childhood, the id is still very much present. So, it's up to the parents to rein that in through the ego. So the ego is that part of us that tells us, helps us accept that we cannot have everything we want. So this psychodynamic theory argues that criminals have weak egos. There's not that restraint within the individual to help them accept that they cannot have everything they want. And thus there are also damaged personalities. So some of the personality disorders like narcissism, or narcissistic personality disorder, authoritarian personality disorder, or sociopathic personality disorders are rooted in this psychodynamic perspective on criminality. So here's the evidence for that. Children with ODD, I mentioned that earlier, oppositional defiance disorder. They tend to be uncooperative. They resent authority in adults and their parents first and foremost. They project blame. They're bullies. Might sound like somebody you know. Also, bipolar disorder and schizophrenia are manifested in psychodynamic trait theory. These people can be unpredictable and violent. But let me say this about the schizophrenic personality disorder, because people with schizophrenia oftentimes have a bad reputation. There's this fear of the schizophrenic. For a number of years, I worked with seriously and persistently mentally ill adults. And oftentimes, people that were schizophrenic would talk to voices. They had what we call command persecutory hallucinations. So they used to curse and threaten, but it wasn't me as an individual in the room with them. Oftentimes they were talking to the voices in their heads. So while they oftentimes appear threatening, many times they are very harmless. So unfortunately, there's this idea that a person with schizophrenia is automatically a dangerous individual, and such is not the case. Always remember, it's not just a biological trait, but there's also environmental factors that shape whether or not people become criminal.